You help to free us as we work to unbind these chains.
Shadow work, apparently first coined by the renowned psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, the process of acknowledging and integrating the repressed or hidden aspects of one's personality, which are often considered unacceptable or undesirable. Whatever you repress and hide will only manifest itself later as destiny. So the obvious paradox, if it's a shadow and we can't see it, then how do we work on it? So on this episode, we're going to go over a few exercises on how to locate and handle, attack, confront these shadows. The obvious step would be to locate it so that we can see it. And that requires some internal self-analysis. So before we begin, let's consider an example of what a shadow is. Let's say an individual doesn't like something about another person, or simply just doesn't like something that he cannot integrate, he cannot accept. And for illustrational purposes that we can understand, let's imagine that there is a conflict between two countries, and this conflict has caused a cumulative shadow. Let's say that a group of individuals in school were taught that the Old South in the United States are racist because they had Negro slaves. And to this date, Russia does not like people from the South. A guy from the South went to Russia. They found out he was from the South and threw it up in his face as if he were responsible. They not only tagged a wrong target, this person doesn't even live in the same timeline, but he also is projecting the very thing that he doesn't like about himself. How so? Let's examine a little closer. If the complaint that he didn't like was in fact racism, he's looking at something that he doesn't like about himself. He is racist. How can he be considered racist when he doesn't like the racist? Well, that's a paradox, isn't it? He doesn't like the American from the South now. So now he's being racist against the South. So this is a simple tool that we can use in evaluating ourselves. Find out what we don't like and ask why. Is there something that resembles an aspect that I don't like about myself? And oftentimes, this will reveal the shadow that we don't like to see nor accept about ourselves. And as we can see, holding on to that shadow in the illustration was holding on to an abandoned timeline that we are no longer part of. And we can see how ridiculous these shadows of such as being racist to our other self are. And yes, they can be individual and cumulative. We have cumulative shadows, and they are contagious, and they continue to be spread. So recognizing the origin of these shadows, how they form, is necessary to attack and dismantle, dissolve these shadows. Thus, saying goodbye to that unneeded and unnecessary shadow that only brings us low frequencies. As the universe gives us more of what we emit, then we end up attracting more problems in our lives with these shadows. Likewise, dissolving these shadows frees up attention and energy that we can utilize in the expansion of our own universe. I think most of our viewers can understand that focusing on negativity and holding on to negativity will only bring more negativity. This is the basis of the law of mirrors, also known as the law of attraction. As we ourselves attract what we emit, the universe gives us more of what we give. So we have a number of exercises that we'll be running through that are quite simple, but may take some time and effort on your end, focus, and patience, as well as some exterior activities that we can apply in our daily duties. Some of these exercises assisted by personal meditation, contemplation, introspection, and self-analysis, and other exercises used and applied in everyday activities. Our first exercise. When things don't go quite right, we find ourselves cursing, saying phrases, harmful and destructive phrases to or about ourselves, especially when we are alone. We're working on something, we break something, we do something wrong, and we just say these phrases to ourselves that are simply ugly. For an example, "You're such an idiot. I can't believe you screwed it up again." The list can go on and on. And so the exercise is identifying these phrases when we say them and write them down on a list. This list will be brought in to a self-analysis session. Quiet time, sitting alone. We choose our first phrase. We repeat that phrase. With our eyes closed, detaching from our five senses as much as possible into an introspection of meditation, we look for instances where we have said, where we have heard, where we have experienced, and we go down and down into a chain of earlier and earlier incidents until we find, most likely in a moment of a traumatic experience, that caused that phrase to be keyed in the first place. So identifying that first moment, the foundation of this chain, is crucial. You may have forgotten about it. It may not be in your immediate memory. However, that does not mean that we cannot find it as we peel layers off the onion. So starting from the top, we go down into older scenarios of experiences. For an example, we may find a moment that mother was yelling at us when we were a toddler on the floor, and she said that phrase, "Get out of the way, you idiot." And now today you say, "I'm such an idiot." And even you manifest being an idiot. Why? Because mom is an authority. She programmed, much like a hypnotic command, into the mind of her child. Yes, this happens. And this is highly contagion because we pass it on to each generation by doing this. We say destructive things that become beliefs into the subliminal mind of the persona, and it manifests. So we identify one early in our childhood. But before accepting that that is the earliest incident, search again. When we find the earliest, repeat the process. Search again. This is peeling layers off the onion. Discovering one leads to discovering the other. You get the point. We find the earliest incident of that phrase. We understand what took place. It was simply a phrase that was given to us under a moment of trauma. That phrase, being in your exterior environment, can trigger that frequency of trauma. You're nervous, anxious, and don't know why. Phrases can trigger trauma. And when we create our own trauma via problems or accidents, we also repeat those phrases. Identifying this first incident on the chain will recoil a lot of the charge. And you will understand why you were saying it in the first place. So this phrase once located, is no longer a shadow, meaning the next time you goof up, you're not going to say, I'm such a goof up. We don't need to say that. Negativity only attracts more negativity. Understand why it's there in the first place and let go of it. You may find that a phenomena may be when you're running through your memories, you may chuckle, you may laugh. That is a phenomenon that the charge is being released. Next exercise. Let's say we just have trouble getting up and doing the things we need to do. Why? Well, sometimes things just seem so costly with our time and effort and energy, and it seems we just never get there. And more often than not, past shows we generally don't get there. As this pattern proceeds, things get more and more difficult. We find that we have less energy and less interest to do things as time moves on, making it even harder. So, is there shadows that need to be confronted? Shadows in this scenario we can find that are often hidden in past undesirable experiences that we have gone through, sometimes even traumatic. Failures can be traumatic. Maybe we started a business and it just didn't go and we had to close the doors. Maybe we had a relationship and it just didn't work. A marriage, some sort of failure. And so here is the exercise. Let's write down the failures, all of them. Take a walk down memory lane and just write down all of those failures. Now here's the kicker. Shadow work shows us that we are the cause of those failures. And here is the work entailed. We have to look for the motive of why we failed. Sometimes it may be hard to find, but it's there. Shadows are hard to find, thus called shadows. So, let's reflect on our own ethics. Did we do something unethical? Let's say we were a store owner who forged the quality of a product, selling sugar water for honey. The customers found out, and we run out of customers. These are real scenarios. People sabotage themselves with a fault of ethical standards. Hypothetically, let's use for an illustration that friend who always enjoys telling white lies and thinks no one knows. The fact that he lies is his own shadow and his own lack of ethics. Why is the lie told? Perhaps fear. Fear of confronting. Fear of being seen for who he really is. Fear does not pertain to progression, spiritually, enlightenment, or on any plane of our existential existence. In life, we are faced with choices, and these choices bring future timelines. So when we're at a crossroad of a choice, the importance of choosing wisely is the art of advancement. And deception that comes from the motive of fear of confront is obviously not a right choice. Thus, choosing a negative timeline that brings problems into this person's life. How so? You may say, just a white lie is going to bring problems into my life? Come on. The people that observe from the exterior, more often than not, know when their friend is telling a lie. That said, this friend suddenly needs a job that requires a very responsible and trustworthy position that pays well. This person that has the habit of telling a white lie will lose that opportunity and perhaps live in a lower vibrational state and a timeline less attractive to experience, leaving the learning experience yet to be found within the shadow. When this learning experience is conquered, we find that positive vibrations return to us. The universe responds when these shadows are suddenly lifted. It's like stopping the wheel of karma. We no longer need it. We get rid of it. Elements and particles in our universe begin to take alignment and structure the way we want. But until we graduate from that learning experience that continues to manifest in our life through a shadow, it will reappear. Just to reiterate the opening quote from Carl Jung, whatever you repress and hide only will manifest itself later as destiny. We've all seen the clever criminal sweeping the evidence under the rug. But one day, someone comes up and they lift up the rug, and the person pays the price. In some way or another, the universe will always respond to our shadows, and shadows will always be there if they're not confronted, handled, and dominated with self-discipline and dominion. Self-dominion brings us back to ethics. Many of these shadows exist for lack of ethics. Simply listening to our inner voice of ethics that we all have, we all know what is right or wrong, and making that choice at the juncture of decision, we automatically raise our frequencies, causing the universe to respond with more positive feedback in our existential plane of existence. So, running through those failures and letting them go and identifying why those failures were there. Moving on to our next exercise. Now we make a list of uncompleted cycles. That we started and we didn't finish. Making this list, we will then eliminate the ones we have decided to abandon. The ones that we do wish to finish, prioritize in your own manner with our current resources. Now, these other items that we cannot close because of external resources or external assistance that we don't yet have at our disposal or reach, we identify each item that we do need and write that down on its separate deserving page and go through the steps necessary needed to execute that cycle. And consider before opening more units of attention that will take your time and energy, as in more cycles of action, let's consider closing these and completing them. We find after completing any cycle of action that we feel a sense of gratification that brings us more higher frequencies that in turn attract more higher frequencies into our existential present time. Moving on to our next exercise, and this does not require a pen and paper. It requires to pay attention during our daily activities, whether we're driving, at work, or at home, when we feel agitation with the exterior environment. Let's say you're looking for that parking spot and someone rushes in to take it. And what you're accustomed to do, and we as a cumulative people are accustomed to do, is to beat on the steering wheel, honk the horn, curse, roll down the window, and give that guy a piece of your mind. What are we doing? We're engaging in low frequency. Negativity attracts negativity. In this scenario, our exercise is to maintain self-control. This brings me back to an illustration of Buddha sitting under the tree, and he's in a serene state, and he's being attacked by all of these entities that come and try to take him out of his serene state. The lesson is that no matter what happens in the exterior, he managed to maintain his serene interior. When we do this, we are attracting more positivity into our universe. And this brings more good things that just happen in our life, that take place, that formulate, that manifest, that arrive without explanations, attached to the positive choice. And we discover that the life we wanted was always there. It was just the learning experience that we needed to graduate from to get it. So what can we do? If we can't curse, are we just going to bottle it up and hold it in? That's not the point. The point is to transform this frequency into a positive frequency. And here's what we can do. Find humor in the situation. Instead of calling yourself an idiot, observe the idiot. Laugh at the situation. In doing so, we discover that the exterior was acting as a catalyst for us to discover what we needed to learn about ourselves, which was how to control ourselves. When we interpret the happenings of our exterior environment as opportunities to improve ourselves, there becomes no obstacle. There becomes no boundaries. The boundaries and limits that we have are the ones that we ourselves place. Removing these boundaries that only cause self-sabotage will facilitate our life into higher existential planes, making the quality and abundance in our universe increase. Isn't this what we all want? This is why we do shadow work. There are many forms of shadow works. I myself work with the subconscious with patients, and I take them into what's known as theta states. And we often find timelines in the past via past lives, not only the failures but traumas of past lives sum up to a perceptional agreement in this current experience. It's not that we always need someone to assist us into these deeper subconscious levels. However, it does greatly facilitate our shadow work. Let's say you have some yard work to do, but you're alone. It's hard to get out and do it alone. But then a friend comes over, says, "Oh, you know what? Let's do it." And then all of a sudden it becomes easy because someone is helping you. Someone is helping you in the case of doing a regression or a theta state subliminal session. Someone is helping you dig out those shadows, a professional that is assisting you to locate and blow off those charges. Here's a few examples. As stated earlier, laughing is a phenomenon of a release. Sometimes literal electricity leaving the body that can be manifested as a sudden jolt. However, you can do much shadow work on your own with these simple exercises. We allow the etheric universe to work with us on deeper levels via your higher self. We've spoken about many types and locations and the whys and hows of shadows, and that prepares us to manage a higher existential plane, thus expanding our reach and quality of existence. So with these tools now in our hands, being more energy and less shadows to hinder us, what shall we do with this newfound ability in our reach? Let's get back to the paper and pen and make a list of the things that you want to come into your universe. Whether it's a career goal, whether it's an achievement, whatever it is, write it down. But let's make sure it's something we really need. We don't want to start another cycle that cannot be completed. So let's bring in a task that we feel that we can complete with what we have without being overwhelmed. A realistic goal. And from there, we move forward. So what are some realistic goals in short to mid-term? The more complex long-term goals, go ahead and feel free to write them down. Put it into the universe as writing it down and keeping it. And this paper of your personal dreams, remember to take a look at it periodically. We take a look at it and we focus and we wear that frequency of that new you. But we wear it now. We don't wait to wear that frequency when we have those things, that whole universe that goes along with that new you. We wear the hat of the new you now. We show the universe through the law of mirrors who we are, and it will reflect back who you are. Our beliefs have a tremendous amount of power within the universe. This can be proven scientifically. In the medical industry, often doctors will give what's known as the placebo pill. It's a sugar pill. If the patient believes that that pill is going to help him, the patient is helped. Interesting how that works, isn't it? If the cumulative consciousness believes something, does this mean it will manifest? Absolutely. If there are outlets of information that can control the thoughts of masses with whatever it is, fear tactics, that something exists that doesn't exist, if they can install the agreement that it does exist, then it comes into existence. The law of mirrors is just that. This is the law of attraction. The universe works off of these principles. So we put it into place and watch the particles of our universe fall into place. In conclusion, let's now consider more choices that we make in our everyday life. Habits. When we have a choice to do something that harms us, or we have a choice to do something that is constructive, which one will we choose? Remembering negativity brings more negativity into our existential plane. So choosing the positive choice of refraining from harming or causing destruction to ourselves, whatever that may be, unneeded information, drinking, drug use, whatever it is, the unwanted habits that we possess, having dominion and self-control over our choices will bring us into a higher existential plane as well. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Dear sweet soul, Queen Eleanor, you're a breath of clean, fresh mountain air, a selfless being working selfless acts of love, and I bow before the beauty of your soul.